This will be an interactive session where I'll ask Amit some questions about civil services examination, and you all can learn from the answers that he gives. At the end of the session, we'll also give you an opportunity to pose some questions to him. Right? Amit, what was your first reaction after looking at the PDF and finding your name in the PDF, securing Rank-70? It's a tremendous achievement, right? So, what was your reaction as soon as you looked at the PDF?
So, results had come, I think, on 29th, which is a Monday. But since the last 2-3 days, there was some news going on that result might come. So, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was expecting the result, and then 3 days the result had not come. So, Monday, I was keeping it low expectations that it might happen that day also. So, I wrote one CSAT paper because prelims was next Sunday. And if you don't get the result, again, you have to prepare for the prelims. So, mostly that entire day, I was preparing for the prelims exam. And 1 o'clock, the result came. And actually, I did not see the result first. One of my friends saw the result and he told me that I have secured 70 rank. And I had actually already calculated what rank, what is the service exactly I had known. So immediately I told my dad that I will get IAS this time. So all of us started shouting very loudly, and the entire family was very happy. And after that, we got a lot of calls, and since last 1 week, I think my lifestyle has completely changed. Earlier, I used to be mostly studying, relaxing, thinking about subjects. Now it is completely an outdoor lifestyle, so it is a very different thing from before.
Right. Being a civil services aspirant, you are relatively isolated from your peer group and your family as well, right? Your extended family. Now this must have really changed the way your life or everyday life moves.
Yes,
right?
Definitely.
Amit, can you tell us briefly about your educational background?
So I did my graduation in chemical engineering from IIT Kanpur. And in 2016, I had just joined my college, and I passed out in 2020. So my aim was that after coming out from college, I should attend the civil service examination. So I was able to complete my courses a little bit early because in IIT the credit system is there. So you can shift the courses in other semesters and you can complete your degree early. So I completed 6 months early, and then I wrote my first attempt. Luckily, I passed prelims and also passed mains in that attempt. But optional score was slightly less in that last attempt. And interview also went well, so I got 289 rank in last year examination. I was expecting around the same rank only, and I got 289. Then I said, if I get into any service, then I will get very distracted. All the training is there, and it is very fun in training. Nobody studies, and the entire seriousness is reduced. So after I got 289 rank, then within 14 days the next prelims was there. So I just solved the past year questions and then cleared prelims. But this time one major difference was there from last time is that I focused on an optional mode, and my option is anthropology. So many people feel that it is a very short subject, you can complete in short amount of time, but from my personal experience, I think it took me around 9 months to complete an optional very well. And this time my written marks have increased a lot. And I have scored the highest in anthropology this time. I think that is one of the biggest factors that has contributed in my rank. And then I gave the interview, I got average marks in interview. But since optional and mains performance was very good, I was able to get rank 70. And I'm very happy with that, because if you get rank 80, then you don't get IS, but rank 70 you get IS.
Amit, so you have decided that you would give civil services examination while you were studying in IIT Kanpur itself, right?
Actually, civil services in my mind was since childhood only. Since my father is in the civil service, so naturally you are a bit curious. What is that doing? What is the work? What is happening? And that was something. And in 2010 time period, I stayed in Delhi for 1 year. So in Delhi, if anyone stays in the NDMC area, you only see judges or civil servants, bureaucrats in their flashy cars and big bungalows. So you think that, oh, I also want this. So that, I think that was also one big factor. And later on, you realize that there is a lot of social prestige that is there in the civil service. Even if I were to do a job in some big multinational and earn 2 crore rupees, which is not less amount, but still the social prestige in civil services is much more. And apart from that, you have a lot of decision-making power. In the sense that if someone wants to do service, you can do service in an NGO also and do good work also. But the difference between NGO and civil service is that you have machinery, you have apparatus, you have people who are going to listen to you, the resources are there to give action to your vision. So I think these were the factors that pushed me towards the civil services.
Right. So immediately after your graduation, you have given your first attempt.
Yes.
Right? And you have scored rank
289.
289. decided to give you a second attempt again. So what do you think went wrong in your first attempt that you have made up for in your second attempt?
Yes, definitely. I think this is a very important journey. There is a common saying about UPSC that is a chakravarti that Abhimanyu gets into. So if you enter the cycle at the wrong stage, then what happens is that you are going to be sucked into the cycle for 4, 5, 6 years without getting any good result. So one learning from my own experience is that until you are completely prepared with your optional, you should not write the exam. The reason I am saying this is that most people who study and write the exam, they only focus on the general studies and most of the preparation is prelims oriented. How to solve MCQs, how to do all that. Suppose you get passed through prelims also, you only have 3 months for the main exam. In that you have to do optional and many segments which are not in prelims paper, such as ethics is there, world history is there, governance is there, disaster management, security, and essay also is there. So these many subjects coupled with optional preparation which requires a different level of approach. In general studies papers, you can write some general answers and you will get decent marks. But in optional, if you write general points, you will not get high marks. You will get some 250 out of 500, and that is not going to be enough for getting into your desired service. So enter the exam only when you are sure with the optional subject. And the best attempt is the attempt you have in your hand. So only when the entire preparation is done, you should attempt it. Otherwise, what will happen is some the other aspect, you will lose 5-10 marks. For example, last time for me it was anthropology, I had gotten 257. This year I have gotten 306. That is 50 marks difference. So if you lose 50 marks, either you will become 289 rank, which I barely got into this by 6 marks last year, and not get the desired service. But this time I had worked on it, spent much more time on optional, and all areas were reasonably good. That's why I was able to get rank 70. So that is one important learning.
Right. So Amit, when a candidate generally starts their UPSC preparation journey, they are quite confused, right, about a lot of things, whether it is book list or coaching institutes or where to start from, where to study from, right? They have a lot of questions, and in the process, they lose out a lot of time, right? So, how did you start your journey?
So, I just have one query: is the most of the students in the final year of college?
Yes.
So, I think it is a very daunting experience when you are first preparing for the civil services. You Google on YouTube or you see many top. I think the person actually goes into depression initially, that how many things you have to prepare. But one thing is that there is actually no secret to prepare. Whatever the things that many people over 5-6 years have told, it is very much in the common knowledge. There is no secret book or secret weapon that is giving someone some advantage. If that such a book were to exist, it would already be known to all people. So there is no shortcut actually. And in fact, most of the common things which you have to do are already known. You have to do Lakshmikant, you have to do NCERT, you have to do Spectrum, you have to prepare about geography. All these common basic windows which I like to call, all toppers are done. For example, Lakshmikant, all toppers are read. Spectrum, history book, all toppers are read. So this kind of thing you should do initially. NCERT also, many people have recommended and you have to do the NCERT. But the issue I notice in most of the beginner people is that saying that complete Lakshmikant quality book is much easier than actually doing it, because it requires a lot of patience and effort to do it, and it is a very tough book for one person who is not from the political science background. So keeping consistent small targets and achieving them is much more important, and it is a tough journey, no doubt. I am not saying that it is an easy journey, and it takes time also. So being consistent and having achievable small targets, and once you achieve the target, you get some small satisfaction that you have done, and that pushes you for more action. For example, if I have studied anthropology for 1 week and completed one small segment, I get very happy that I have the best notes on the subject, and if a question were to come out of this, I would get the best marks. So that I think is the important thing for beginners.
Right. So being consistent and covering all the basic books in the beginning would save them a lot of time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it would also help them understand other subjects easily. Right. When you have good grasp over history, polity, geography, and economy, reading newspapers also becomes easy, right?
Yes.
So,
and one more thing I'd like to add is that if someone were to ask me if I were a topper in I think 2015 or 14, when internet was not there, YouTube was not there, what books did you read? I think that question made much more sense 6 years back, because then YouTube was not there, coachings were located primarily in Delhi, and those who are in Delhi or the surrounding areas, they know what to study, how to study, what tests to write. But now we are in 2022, 7 years of videos are there on YouTube by all toppers. Every segment of the examination, I think, is open knowledge, know what to do. And only the thing is that we need dedication from our side. Whatever, I don't have any special book that I have done apart from the toppers. Most of the things I have taken on the past toppers. Anthropology also, there is a good tradition that each year topper, they put their notes on the public forum. So the next year topper will take those notes and add 2-3 points. And I'm also going to put notes on the forum so that others can benefit from it. So there is no mystery actually, it is a overdose of information nowadays.
So Amit, do you read newspapers? Or did you read newspapers for your preparation?
I think in the initial phase for 3-4 months, I had read newspapers. But over time, I think that newspaper was taking too much time for me, so I did not read the newspaper. I think nowadays it is a slightly outdated mechanism for gathering information. When people were preparing in 1990, 1995, I think newspaper was the only source of information at that time. So it made much more sense to invest 1.5 to 2 hours, especially if your option is political science or sociology. But nowadays, most of the information already people have several teams dedicated for you getting information in a crisp manner with background, foreground, conclusion, everything. So it does not make much sense to invest your time doing the same thing that others are giving you for free. So I think that is my philosophy that I should not waste time and others are doing it for me. Interview preparation, newspaper reading has certain role, especially in your interview preparation, because the news that happens that week is definitely asked in the interview. So very specifically, it has some role. But I have not been very consistent in my newspaper, and I have not found that I have lost out compared to other aspirants in the prelims mains examination. Also, the trend in the last 2-3 years prelims examination is mostly focused towards the static content and having conceptual clarity. So I think that also happened. So while if you want to read as a hobby for your personal enrichment, I think it is definitely great. But as a compulsory book, that this is the only way for getting information, I think that does not hold true in today's time period.
Alright, so did you rely on current affairs magazines or what was your source of information?
So I don't read newspaper, but I watch a lot of news channels. I watched I think 2 hours of news. So that was one thing that I think got me a lot of information. And I used to also do the current affairs magazine. But I used to only very selective. If some 100 topics are there, I would only choose 30 or 40 topics which I found to be relevant. The issue with the current magazine is that it is almost 100 pages, and doing it every month for 100 pages is very time taking. And remembering that, recalling that before the exam also is a very tough challenge. So you choose the important issues which you find according to you can be asked in the exam. And those are generally 30-40. When the current affairs magazine is published, there is no cost of printing because it is mostly on the online format. So they add everything just to say that finally the answers came from our material. So all the world rankings, business rankings, not useful like that. So issue-based things you can pick up, and the static portion is so vast that most of the things you will already know from your static preparation.
So Amit, you have graduated and you have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, but you chose anthropology as your option. So what was the reason behind this? Why did you want to shift from your graduation subject to anthropology?
So in the civil service examination, the only choice you have in what to take or not to take is the option subject. And my graduation is chemical engineering, but such a subject is not offered by UPSC. So either I was thinking going to maths, physics or some humanities. But but the thing people have to realize about the option subject is that it is not a general paper. It is a very, very specific paper that requires master's degree level knowledge in the paper. So if I were to take maths or physics, it is too specialized, and I felt that I would not be able to score very good marks in it. So then I came to the humanities side. Then also there are a lot of variations. You can take PSIR, you can take history, geography, political science, anthropology, many others. And some people take maths also. So now you have to think about yourself. What is your strength? For example, in PSIR sociology, these subjects are much more abstract and vague. For example, what are the problems of middle class? This is a very open-ended statement. There is not one correct answer, and you need very good writing skills for this. Compared to anthropology, where the questions are more factual, and you have to prepare the answer in advance. So referring 4-5 books, getting the perfect answer, making it home, and then remembering it, and same thing you have to reproduce in the exam. I think this was much more my strength, and that is why I did it. If some other person who is not good at this, he takes anthropology, he will not score the same mark. And if I were to take sociology, I think I would not score very high marks because I don't understand what is the demand of the question in sociology exactly. So based on your personal requirement, you should choose the optional. By and large, optionals have a similar range of performance, but like all our papers are not equal, all options are not also equal. So you must be very careful in choosing your optional. And I think that there is a common statement that choosing your option is like choosing your spouse. So it is very important to choose properly, otherwise you might regret later on. And optional is the biggest factor that impacts your performance in the final result. So take a lot of time, especially since you are in the preparation phase, you have time. So you have to watch a lot of videos. Same thing with optional preparation also. Almost all the videos are available online, and it is open knowledge nowadays. So you choose whichever subject you want, go through the syllabus, go through the entire list of 24 options offered by UPSC, then start cutting down one by one. So you will be left with 3-4 options. Let us say you have written PSIR, sociology, and geography. Now, within that, you just see the simple study for whatever topic you want, and then you come across it. Also, see what is the general scoreability of the subject. For example, if some option is there like English literature, people are not getting about 260 since last 5-6 years, then ideally you should not choose that subject. But if some 5-6 subjects like PSI, anthropology, sociology, each year people get 290 plus. So that is a very safe subject. So some people ask me what is that most important thing for choosing optional? Is it like personal interest, shortness of syllabus, or is it that marks should be the primary criteria? I think one should keep that marks should be the primary criteria for choosing optional, and interest should be secondary, because getting marks is the ultimate goal to become a civil servant. And without marks, how much ever you like the subject, it is not of primary use. You might use later on in life in some other sphere, but using for UPSC, I think marks are the most important thing. And shortness of an optional is actually, it takes 9 months of serious preparation to prepare any option. All options take a lot of time, and it took me 9 months also to get this score. So by saving 1 month in GS, you might lose 2-3 years in the preparation. So I think that is a very important choice you have to take in all seriousness.
In anthropology, right? That's not an easy thing to do, and not many students can score 300 plus. So what in your assessment was the key to score around 300 marks in anthropology option?
So anthropology now is a very popular optional. Last year, I think, out of the 9,000 people who are writing the basic examination, almost 1,400 people take anthropology now. So almost 20% of the people are writing with anthropology, and it is a fairly good subject. Now, the reason why you get very good marks in an optional subject is that you have to write technical points. So, for example, you have, whenever you make a statement, you have to write the name of the book that the person has said the statement, the name of the scholar, the year in which the book was published, and you have to get very technical points. For example, if you choose a question, what is anthropology? Tell the branches of anthropology. This is not a high scoring question because it is very general in nature. Everyone will write more or less the same answer with some changes. But if you were to answer a question, what is thick description, and give an example of how anthropologists have used thick description, it is a concept in anthropology. Such kind of questions give much more marks than choosing general questions. So you have to show that you have technical expertise in the subject to the examiner, and that is heavily rewarded. You can even score 12 out of 15 in a descriptive paper while doing this. So I think second attempt I had focused on only most of the theoretical and conceptual areas of anthropology, biology, then fossils, archaeology, these kind of areas where this kind of specialized knowledge is required. And also, paper 1 of anthropology is completely technical. It is technical knowledge. You need to know about biology, you need to know about where fossils are found, you need to know what are the theories of anthropology. While paper 2 is much more applied. It is like what are the problems of tribes in India, the context of tribes, what are the different types of tribes. So descriptive and much more elaboration is there. What are the health problems of tribes, what are the poverty issues of tribes, how many tribes are there, what is the classification, what is caste, all this kind of topics. So here, also you can add many examples, but I think writing from your heart also is essential. Because if you write simply in a monotonous fashion, it does not connect with the examiner. So you have to write sort of in like NGO activist kind of one in the second paper, I feel, and to get the true idea of the problems of the tribe. And I also used to mention that if more anthropologists were there in the civil services, so it would be good for the tribe. So I think you have to also encourage me also.
Amit, now let's get into general studies. We'll go paper by paper, right? Let's start with general studies paper 1, history. It is a very vast subject. We have a lot of verticals within history, right? And many students tend to ignore some areas of history like ancient and medieval history because the cost-benefit analysis is low according to their assessment. Right? How did you go about your history preparation strategy?
With respect to history, actually my thoughts have changed over the years. I have actually found that the cost-benefit analysis of studying history is very less. So ideally, you should only do those areas where you are very good at. For example, Spectrum is a book in modern Indian history, and that is a very good book that you should complete. And for medieval history, I would suggest you find the smallest book that is available that covers the entire series in a time period manner and do it. Because even yesterday in this examination, the questions in history were very tough. I also found them very challenging after looking at the paper. So questions are tough. There is no solution for it. But you focus on some sort of thematic areas like Bhakti is there, Sufi literature is there, and ancient kingdoms are the that are very common in modern period. if you can focus on these areas, and the rest I think you should leave it up to God, because it is really tough to do it.
So art and culture and world history as well, will you suggest the same strategy for that?
So in things like world history, medieval India, I would say whatever the smallest medieval is there from anyone, we just simply do the smallest medieval, because I have personally seen that in the last 4 years, one 10 marker has come in world history in the last 4 years. And that also is a very general world marker, what happened after World War I, which anyone is usually aware of. So I don't think it is necessary to invest even 1 week's time on world history nowadays. But of course, next year they ask 4 questions on world history, I am not doing it.
UPSC is quite unpredictable that way. So do you refer to any book other than NCERT's and Spectrum for history?
No, I have not referred to any other book. So, this I think rehighlights the point that there is no secret book list. I have tried to keep my book list actually the smallest, because revising that is very time taking. And I am also still living in the fear that I have not revised properly.
So now geography. So did you refer to again any other book other than NCERT's for geography?
So for geography, I have only done 3 books, that is the 11th class NCERT and 1 book of 12th class. Apart from that, I have not referred to GCA or any other book. I have found that it is more than sufficient if you do these 3 books. So you might see a recurring theme that I have not studied much at all in any subject, except anthropology.
So for prelims and mains examination, you have heavily relied on NCERT's both for history and geography.
Yes.
Indian society. There is no one single book for Indian society, people say, right? So what was your source, or how did you prepare for Indian society for mains examination?
So society is an area that is only there in the mains examination, and generally people who are attempting for the first time, they do not prepare society in advance, and that is perfectly alright. So after the mains examination is over, you have to go through the syllabus. I think some 15 to 20 points are there in the syllabus, like globalization, impact on women, impact on elderly, what is the role of caste, what are the problems of tribes, what are the problems of scheduled tribes. So in each of the syllabus point, if you can remember 20 to 25 unique points, some data, some flowchart, some unique definition, and I think that is enough for society preparation to get decent marks. But if you, of course, if you want to get the highest marks in general studies, it is actually very tough, because out of the 250 paper, getting 90 marks is reasonable. But for each additional mark you need in general studies, the quantum of magnitude of work you need to do is much more. So getting from 60 to 90 in general studies is much easier than going from 90 to 100 in general studies. And the issue with general studies is that there is a 4 subjects, and improvement in all 4 subjects is very tough. So on average, people are either good at some subjects and weak at some subjects. So the range of marks that people get in optional studies, general studies, is very limited, and the reward is much lesser.
So now let us enter into general studies paper 2, polity and governance. Many people focus or spend a lot of time on polity, but they ignore governance, right? Governance for your mains examination.
So with respect to polity and especially governance in the paper 2, I have got both my years very good marks in general studies 2, much more than general studies 1. So I was thinking, why is that the case? And I can say that one of the factors that contributed to this is that in any polity question, I always start with the constitutional article. And I remember most of the articles in the constitution. So for example, if the question is about public services, so directly I start that in chapter 14 of the constitution from article 314 to 394 talks about public services and services under the union and the state. So some kind of introduction I would give like. And almost all questions, whether it is a comptroller auditor general or it is about the attorney general, any question I would start like this. So this is I think very introduction, and this is one of the reasons I think I scored more marks in polity. Mentioning the constitutional articles, then Supreme Court judgment. If you quote this kind of political dimensional stuff, then it is definitely good. With regard to governance, I think governance and international relations again are only specific to the mains examination. So even if some person has not done it before the prelims, I think it can be covered. Here also, I think one mistake aspirants do is that they spend too much time on international relations. For example, if a question comes on India and China, most of the points are already common. You will give an introduction, conclusion, and we all know what is happening with respect to China. So the scope for improvement, marginal improvement is less. But you should do some good practices like mentioning constitutional articles and be aware of the various schemes of the government, giving examples, case studies. And also one thing in paper 2 is that you can mention some report. For example, Center for Democracy Reports and the Lokaniti is there. Then PUCL, People's Union for Civil Liberties, they have made some comments or they have found some data. So giving such data, for example, if there is a question on criminalization of politics. You can say that, for example, in 2019 Lok Sabha, some X% of people have come who have had some FIRs registered against them. So, talking in slight data management, slight database is, I think, helpful for getting marks.
But we have seen cases where candidates dump data. Do you think that's helpful? Just writing a lot of data points in the answers?
So I think there are three ways to begin any question. Either you give the definition, you give the origin, and or you give the data. And I think that the definition, for example, if a question is there, what is deficit financing? If you start with the what is the definition of deficit financing, I think nowadays it is not giving a good result because almost all people write a definition of the thing. Origin does not match what is the origin of deficit financing. So you have to go with data. For example, you can say that the fiscal deficit of India in last year was 6.4%. So while data might not be relevant to the question, I have found that people who write data get more marks than people who don't write data, even if the data is not relevant to the question.
Amit, for international relations, did you refer to any textbook as such, or was it?
I think that in minutes of the society, governance, you should not refer to any textbook. And because each textbook that will be 600 pages. For example, in what is a textbook for normal law, it is around 600 pages. Same thing as Lakshmikant. And doing Lakshmikant and revising it is itself a challenge that I had no time to do any other textbook apart from the standard ones.
Right. So, was it newspapers for international relations? Your source of information?
In international relations, the GS paper 2 that is there, 4 questions are asked from IR. So, my approach was that I should be able to answer basically good in all the questions, but not, I did not invest any specific time in that because my strategy was that I should be getting sufficient marks in general studies. For example, I got 401 in general studies this year and the highest was, I think, 450 in general studies. So while I am less, but it is still a good score in general studies. So most of the effort was directed towards the optional because in the amount of effort you need to get more marks in optional is much lesser than you need in general studies. So I did not do too much in general studies, I can say.
Right. Amit, now let's come to GS paper 3, economy. Many students refer to various online sources for economy. They don't refer to any standard textbook as such. What did you do?
So general studies paper 3 is not one subject, it is a mixture of 6 subjects. There is economy, there is agriculture, there is environment, there is science and technology, there is disaster management and there is security. So it is not one paper, it is 6 papers in one. Personally, my economy I think was one of the strongest points in my preparation and I had done a course by Nunal sir on economy. I think that was a very useful course for me and it helped me through all aspects of my preparation. So the course by Nunal sir on economy is I think very good and all people should do it. It's very lucid and not very bulky and it helps in all aspects. So my economy was very strong. Disaster management you can do after prelims and even a 20-page notes on disaster management is more than enough. Each year the themes are repeated. What is the vulnerability? What are the famous common types of? What are the common types of disasters? Science and tech I would not prepare because I was an engineer, so I was able to, in my mind I felt that whatever question it has on science and tech I will manage. And mostly it's a repeating this kind of question. For example, last year question was asked on blue LED. Before that, the contribution of Visheshwaraya. Before that, what is cyberdome? So you see, all the questions are like economics. You can either know or you don't know. And my observation about general studies 3 is that nobody knows how to get marks in general studies 3. Because last year the highest in general studies 3 is 101 out of 250. I have got 88 in general studies, and very few people are there who are getting over 90 marks. So the nature of the paper is that it is not deciding your rank, because even the person who is getting the topmost marks or put the best effort is getting 101. I am getting 90, only 11 mark difference. Of course, 11 marks is important, but it gets covered in the other aspects. So economy, I was very strong. I'm very quick at doing what is the repo rate, all that trend analysis is I think a strong part. And I remember almost all the schemes of the government. What is the funding of the which ministry is there? I would mention all that in economy.
So in GS paper 3, Amit, 40 or 35 to 40% of questions would come from economy. But many students give their 100% in economy, but they ignore environment and ecology, science and technology, disaster management, internal security, where the questions can be very easy. But they don't read anything on it and they think that they can directly go into the examination and give answers. What do you think?
So, I think leaving any aspect of the syllabus is a very risky thing because any year, any segment can be boosted much higher. So, you should have a basic notes on any subject. For example, if the topic is security, there are certain predetermined themes in security. What is nationalism? How to combat overground workers. These are the constant themes that are there in 4-5 years. So you should have at least 30-40 pages of notes. And 30-40 pages is not at all thick and you can remember them. So having this notes before and in clips, I think very few people have this actually. If 10,000 people are writing a mains exam, I think less than 500 people would have some kind of notes for all the syllabus, is my personal feeling about it. So completing the syllabus in a fair manner, average manner also is very important. And you don't need to top in any paper. You can do average marks in all the papers and still come to the top in, apart from anthropology. In none of the papers I have come even close to the top, but still my rank is much higher than people who have topped in their studies.
Now, GS paper 4, ethics, again 100 plus, why some students score only 80 or 60. You don't have one single textbook where you can just read like Lakshmikant. You don't have anything like that for ethics. Right? What did you do? What was your preparation strategy for ethics?
So for ethics, my philosophy was that I will put the least effort and get the maximum output. And this year, surprisingly, my marks are very high in ethics paper. And it's a very, very good score. I got 114 out of 250. And very few people, I think, are above me in ethics. One of the reasons is that in ethics paper, the questions, as in other papers, they tend to repeat. What is citizen startup? What is public service delivery? What is integrity? How to promote emotional intelligence? What is work culture? What is quality of service delivery? What is social auditing? What is crisis of conscience? What is conflict of interest? These are the themes that are there in ethics paper. And one common thing I noticed is that people focus too much on the case studies in ethics. And they work on it only. But firstly, there are 13 10 markers that are there. And if people spend too much time on the case studies, they are compromising on the quality, which is actually more than the case study. 120 marks is for the 10 markers and 120 for the case study. So for the 10 markers, ideally you should have around 3-4 pages of very, very high quality flowcharts or unique points that you can put in any answer. I had only 4 pages of notes for ethics, which included this quality aspect, and almost all the 4 pages I used in the 13 10 markers. So if some question comes to integrity, I just remember the definition, I know one flowchart about integrity, and I know one example. So without thinking, I would just fill that, and then whatever the demand of the question is there, I would answer. So this actually appeals to examiner because there is a lot of time mentioned in ethics. Ethics is the toughest paper to complete. You need to do 6 case studies and 13 MCQs. That 10 mark question. So a lot of time pressure is there. And if you are able to produce such kind of thing, you are relatively better than the other people who are just rushing through and writing what is the first thing that comes to their mind. And you have to give a lot of examples, and you can make up your examples. You can pick from the life of the top learned people, and you can give them the help. So having that page, 4-5 pages of quality content very essential. Then you need to know the definition of what are the values. For example, integrity is there, compassion is there, empathy is there. For example, what is the technical difference between empathy and compassion? I don't know actually, but I can distinguish between the two. That compassion includes an element of action. Empathy is that I am able to put my feet in his shoes and understand what is the problem. But when I have compassion, not only am I able to put my feet in his shoes and understand the problem, but I also take action to solve the issue. So you should be able to distinguish it down, and then for example, what is empathy, what is compassion. And you must be able to elaborate on the issue. What are the ethical concerns? I think it's a very important change since last 2 years, that some problem is there. Some person is giving corruption or doing corruption. What are the ethical issues involved? What is the issue for the public? What is the issue for the person taking the bribe? What is the issue for the person giving the bribe? Who are the other stakeholders who are supposed to monitor that corruption? And so elaborating the situation and giving, okay, these are the stakeholders, these are the issues involved, these are the courses of action is very, very important. And in case studies, you must try to go a little beyond the brief of the case study. For example, if there is a question on tribal displacement, you can mention about the Forest Rights Act, the Panchayat extension to Scheduled Areas Act. You can say that because the FRA Act is not being implemented properly, the displacement of tribals is happening. Apart from that, if there is a question on food and nutrition, you can mention that FSI should take action on this under the FSI Act 2006. So if you add points like this, it is very helpful. I think if you do all this, three things importantly, you do not need to refer to any manual, any bulky manual like Lucent or anything for ethics. My ethics most, I think, in my view, are only 70-80 pages. So the constant theme is continuous, that I don't want to work for not getting results. I only study something or remember or write something that is useful for me, or in some way it can be applied in the examination also. So I thought that in the initial, I don't want to be a book collector, I want to be a district collector.
General studies syllabus to cover your first reading of all the subjects in general studies.
So I think general studies, preliminary reading takes about 6 to 7 months, and that I think time period is reasonable to complete general studies. Plus, you can say 2-3 months for adding the note for the mains related preparation. So 9 months and 6 months for optional preparation. Because 3 months you can do in mains also, you can add it. So I think this exam definitely requires 1 year of dedicated preparation before attempting. Now people definitely are there who can attempt in 6 months, who can get first time or even very good rank in 6 months. But those are the exceptions, they are not the norm. It takes a reasonable amount and at least 12 months preparation you have to get the top rank. What will happen if you don't do that is you get some other service or you will not get your desired rank. Again you have to write the exam, so only your knowledge is wasted. So only enter the Chakravarti and prepare so that you can exit.
So you have prepared for prelims and mains simultaneously. You have not, or you did not have this idea that first I'll prepare for prelims, and then once the examination is done, then I'll start preparing for mains.
Actually, the preparation is the same only. Once you study the common books, then you write mock tests. That is the preparation for the prelims. After you clear prelims, you make specific notes on the subject which are left from the prelims. That is the aspect for the mains. So that is the idea.
Amit, just few days before prelims examination, what was going through your mind? Just a couple of days.
So, in this examination, the prelims stage is the toughest stage. In 2 hours, I think your entire 1 year of hard work is just. So, I was actually very scared before both the prelims. And even if you were to ask me 1 week back when the result had not come, even this year also I was very scared for the prelims. So, it is a very tricky stage. But one thing I can tell you is that you must solve all the previous year questions. There are some areas where hard work is not so needed, but in some areas it is definitely needed. For example, with respect to the prelims examination, I remember all the last 11-year MCQs in my mind, and each of the options also I remember. For example, yesterday only last year prelims, one question was asked, which is not a fish. Sorry, which is not a bird. Yes, which is not a bird. So I don't know 3 words. Then was written, one of them was written machine. And I remember in 2019, one of the questions was where is machine found? So it is found in the Kaveri river. So directly, this is a tough question, but because you solved PYQ, you are able to solve it. So all the statements, options of the last evidence I remember by heart. So this, I think, is one of the biggest factors which helped me get 135 in prelims last year. And other aspect is that since the prelims examination is common for the forest services and also for the civil services, at least 35 questions will come from environment, geography, and science and technology. 35, maybe more, 40 also. So you must be remembering all the 101 national parks of India. Even yesterday, many questions were there are national parks. What are the major species? Which river flows through the species? I remember almost all the rivers of India, from northeast to Indus Valley system to Ganga, Kaveri, Narmada. So I remember all the 101 national parks and all the rivers. So each year, many questions are there. What is the biosphere reserve? Where is it found? Which species is found? Is it bleached and or what IUCN status is there? If some question comes on, for example, word body. For example, what is some obscure word body like sanitation correlation? You can simply ignore that. It's not an issue because that is like a random factual question. But if some common questions, what is the tributary of Godavari river? That I think those kind of questions. And on my personal experience, prelims questions are now increasingly either very tough or very easy. History questions are very tough. So if you make mistakes in the easy questions, I think it is very challenging to come into the mains list. You must be almost having 90% plus accuracy in the easy questions.
Amit, many feel that prelims papers, they are getting more and more uncertain these days. You can't predict, right? You can never predict, but it has become more uncertain. It's not directly from textbooks or it's not directly from current affairs or magazines, which used to be the case back in 2015-16. Right? What's your take on prelims examination this year and the last year that you have given examination?
So in 2000 was 116 out of 200 and last year it is 87.54. So almost 28 marks, I think 30 marks difference is there from last year. So one of the reasons is that not from the common sources many questions are not being asked. But I can tell you that if you are solving the PYQs, at least 10 questions directly through inspired mechanism, you will definitely be in advantage. Also, it is not that the easy questions are changing. There are always 30-40 questions where you can apply your basic common sense and get the answer. For example, yesterday a question was a magnetic storm. It's almost a very long question, but you can use the elimination and use it. But one thing that has changed is yesterday they are asking what are the number of pairs that are correct in the question papers. That is, I think. So I think this shows that there is natural evolution in progress. I would tell that use the options to eliminate the answer, but there is an improvement. So doing PYQs and basic material correct and not making errors. If you make some error from a book, Lakshmikant, or from articles 1 to 51, fundamental writing case, that is a very dangerous thing to do. For example, I think 2 years back, 2021, one question was that what is the significance of 8th August in this independence movement? So it is the start of the Quit India movement. But if you want to do mistakes in questions like this, it is very, very dangerous and it can pull you out of this. But if some question is there, what is the difference between Bidakshara and Nalbag mechanisms of precision? You will simply skip that. And I think this year's paper, attempting more than 80 questions, I think is definitely very risky strategy because 13 questions are asked in history, and based on my view, I think almost 11 are very tough questions.